Hi there, this is JP Bailey, and this is my blog. So I wanted to make a blog for complex trauma or complex PTSD recovery using NLP. Now let me just move this up a little bit so you can see right here. This is where you find my blog. And I've been putting up NLP methods for healing. And there's a concept out there, scroll down a little bit, that NLP can transform complex trauma into complex growth. And I believe NLP is the way to get there, to get to the growth part, to get to the healing and the relief, and to grow. And that's what we need to do is heal and recover and grow. So in this video, I want to talk about a very famous NLP method called the fast phobia technique. And I'm going to go ahead and read it through so that you can, run through this process yourself. Now, phobias are things that we're terrified about. We have a lot of fear. And usually NLP talks about either, literal phobias, like phobias of heights or whatever, phobias of spiders. But what I want to do is use this to deal with the phobia of the narcissistic abuser in our life. So you can use it for that too. So I'm just going to go ahead and read through this, and hopefully it'll help you. Basically, I'm just so tired of hearing people suffering and stuck in their pain and stuck in their patterns and constantly being triggered and constantly having emotional flashbacks. And when you notice that you're, getting triggered or in a flashback, this technique, the fast phobia technique, can really help you snap out of it. So let's get started. Although this method will work well with very intense fears or phobias, we highly recommend that you learn the process thoroughly using a moderately fearful situation. So the first step is to identify the fearful situation. So the fearful situation could be just the fear or whatever, issues are triggered when you think of the narcissistic abuser, or some sort of trigger that reminds you of it, and you get that fear and adrenaline or anxiety gets triggered. So think back to a time, take a minute, and think of a situation that has made you feel moderately fearful. Okay? And it says here, this could be making a cold call, making a presentation, or any other situation that makes you afraid. Think about it just enough to get a little bit of the feeling of fear. You want to be sure that you can get access to the part of you that creates fear. So instead of thinking about a presentation and all that, I want you to think about the fear from your family of origin, or perhaps a narcissistic spouse or friend or boss or anyone that just triggers your fear. Okay? So think of a time when you were really scared of somebody who was toxic and abusive. So that's the situation that I want you to bring to mind. And just remember a time where you were fearful of somebody like that. Okay. Once you have that situation in mind, now we're going to go to step 2. It's called the movie theater. So now, in your mind's eye, imagine you are sitting in a large movie theater. See yourself up on the screen in a still picture just before you had the fearful response for the first time. If you can't think of the first time you experienced this fear, just think of the most intense time that you have had this kind of fear response. So picture yourself in a theater, you're up on the screen, and you are like 15 minutes before the fear hits you. So that's all you have to do in this step. Once you have that picture in your mind's eye, you can go on to the next step. Now, I just wanted to say that you don't want to just read through these methods. You want to actually do the methods. You actually want to take the time, to go within and find these things and, just follow the directions, okay? So once you have that scene in your mind's eye, now you go to step 3, and this is called leave the body. So what I want you to imagine, you're 15 minutes before the fear happened. In that position, I want you to imagine floating out of your body and go up into the projection booth. The projection booth where they run the movie, right? So that now you can look out and you can see yourself, watching yourself on the screen. And this is a very classic NLP method where you're in these different positions. So you can be in the position of yourself living the moment. You can be in a position where you're watching yourself living the moment. And this takes a step further where you're watching yourself live out the scene. Okay? Now you want to stay in this projection booth until you're instructed to leave it. So now you're up in the projection booth and ready to go to the next step. So step 4 is watch a movie. Okay? As you watching yourself, begin to run a black and white movie of what actually occurred in that fearful situation. Run the whole movie of the experience of, the abusive memory. Who was there, what happened, how you felt. You're just going to watch it as if you're watching a movie. Continue to watch that movie from the projection booth until you reach the end of the situation when the trauma was over, or you left, or, it was just done, or magically it was the next day, or, you forgot what happened after that and you were back at work or at home or whatever. Okay, so you need a beginning of the movie and an end of the movie. So just watch that movie until you reach the end of the situation where the trauma was over. And you can tell from your movie that you're safe again. At this point, I want you to stop the movie and make it into a still picture of yourself after the trauma was over with. So after the trauma was over with, create like a picture, like a Polaroid picture of you afterwards, after the movie. Okay, if you got that in your mind, and you just create it, you just use your imagination and make it in your mind. You're ready to go to the next step. So step 5 is called run the movie backward. So now you're going to leave the projection booth and you're going to step into that still picture that's up on the screen and go through the experience backward in color, just as if time were reversed and you were being sucked back through it by a giant vacuum cleaner. Do this very quickly, in about 1.5 seconds. Do this step several more times if you believe it would be helpful. When you're finished, actually physically get up and move your body around. Shake your arms and take a deep breath. And that's called breaking state. Because once you're in that picture and you're running that movie backwards in color, you're associated into that state, and you want to now break the state by coming out of it. Look around the room of where you are here and now today. You don't have to get up and walk around the room. You could just feel your feet on the floor and feel your butt in the chair and just look around and kind of, get out of it. Once you've broken the state like that, you can go on to the next step. So now step 6 is checking. So now what I want you to do is think of that experience again, that fearful situation in step 1. I want you to go back to that in your mind and think about it again and notice what your response is. In your mind, I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being worse, what level of fear you're at. If it's more than a 2, then repeat the entire process, being careful to do each step very thoroughly. Now, it's important to be cautious as you test the change you've just created in the real world. For example, if your fear was of heights, or say your fear was of a bully, you might want to go to a fairly high place, look out the window, notice how your fear has changed, or you might want to have some sort of contact with a bully just to check to see how you're feeling now. Test yourself gently and carefully with respect to your own personal safety. So maybe you don't want to see the bully in person, but maybe you want to look on their Facebook page or something. You just want to check to see your reaction, your inner gut feelings when you see the bully again now. So use appropriate caution in dangerous situations. Don't, of course, if somebody's abusive to you, you don't want to go in person and, challenge them or anything like that. I want you to keep safety in mind. This is just a test to see how the method worked. The fear has probably kept you out of these situations, so you don't have much experience in how to cope with them. Usually the fear makes you avoid all bullies, right? So now we're going to, gingerly approach somebody who represents being a bully or a toxic person or a abuser, just to see how you feel. Because the whole point of this is to change your reaction to them instead of being stuck in the fear and even terror of any time you're around them. So some situations do have inherent danger, so it's important to respect this and learn how to deal with them cautiously and resourcefully. So like I said, you could even look at a picture of your abuser and, just double check, see how you feel, and compare that feeling to the feeling you had when you started this, when you thought of the fearful situation and all the times in the past when you were very scared, of a certain person or family member. So the fast phobia technique is a way to use the perceptual positions, the position of being in the movie, watching the movie, and then watching yourself watching the movie. And there's something about that that helps you detach and break out of that fear.